Thank you so much for joining us there. Let's start. Can I ask you to tell us a little bit about your academic background?
So I started my academic career at UWA in Western Australia, studying philosophy and Chinese. And at the time, I was really lucky to get a new Colombo Plan scholarship to go to Beijing and study Chinese for 2 years, which got me very interested in China and then led me to apply for an MSc in Contemporary China Studies at Oxford. And after that, I did a master's in anthropology at Peking University in Chinese. And now I'm completing my PhD at Cambridge University in social anthropology.
Awesome. What does that give you? 12 consecutive years in academia?
Yeah, this is my 12th year in academia, so 一轮, as the Chinese would say.
And can you also tell us, how did you actually get involved in Olympiads at the outset?
So I think I was in the first ever Ethics Olympiad, which was held between our school in Australia and a school in Singapore. And after that, I competed in various ethics Olympiads during school and went on to judge and also train coaches and students for the competition. And was also part of founding the Ethics Olympiad in Canada.
Awesome. Okay, and from your deep experience as an ethics Olympian and also as a competitive debater, I understand, can you tell us about the differences between those competitions?
Right. There are quite a few differences between debating and the Ethics Olympiad. I think the biggest one is that you are not bound to argue for or against the motion, but instead you're asked to, with your teammates, come to your own honest position, the one that you find most persuasive. And I think this is quite important because it's more reflective of real life, where we are not often bound to a particular position, but are asked to come up with our own. The other thing is that instead of being in an oppositional or antagonistic relationship to the other team, you are trying to help them come to a better understanding of the case at hand, and you're rewarded for that sort of collaborative intellectual engagement, which again is, I think, really productive for any young person, a very productive skill for any young person to develop.
Awesome. Okay, and can you now tell us, how have the skills that you developed in the Ethics Olympiad, how have they helped your role as an academic specifically?
Well, in my field work for the PhD in social anthropology, I was a translator, a Chinese Swahili English translator in a Chinese Buddhist temple in Tanzania. And as you can imagine, that was a place with a whole bunch of different people with different religions, different languages, national backgrounds, etc. And during my fieldwork, I was interested in how people negotiated these kinds of cultural differences and being able to see what was at stake, the kind of principles, the cultural differences that were present in the temple. That was a really important part of fieldwork. But also there's a lot of ethical issues that come up during fieldwork. So at this temple, there were also Tanzanian children who were being raised by the Chinese Buddhist monastics. And I made a decision not to explicitly write about them in my dissertation because I felt that they couldn't consent to the research that I was doing. They just simply couldn't fully understand, given their age, what I was up to, unlike the adults. And so that's a kind of example of an ethical issue that comes up during fieldwork that you have to come to your own position on.
Wow, that's incredibly interesting. So what do you think are the things that students learn through the Olympiad, and why do you think that's important right now?
I think the best thing about the Ethics Olympiad is that the topics are always very current and they're kind of hitting on some of the most important new challenges that we're facing, like AI, like new technologies, things that don't have set answers that we're still unsure about, where the debate is still up in the air. And I think more than ever, students need to be equipped to engage with new questions. And the Ethics Olympiad is a great way to practice those skills.
What do you think are the hard skills that a student learns, apart from dealing with these complex ethical questions, which is obviously incredibly important? Are there any just like very pragmatic hard skills that you gain from the Olympiad as well?
Yeah, I think one thing about the Ethics Olympiad is that there is a lot of time pressure on you to come up with an answer, a structured answer to a question with your team within, say, 2 minutes, and then also be able to comment on someone else's presentation with very little preparation time. And this has clear applications in academic life. I mean, in timed exams, you're asked to come up with structured answers within time parameters, but also probably more so in classroom discussions. I know in my role as a supervisor, being able to listen and understand what someone's saying and then think of a constructive way to help them get to a deeper understanding, that is a really important skill. So yeah, I think the Ethics Olympiad is very much applicable, or the skills that you learn there are very much applicable to academic life.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Theo. Hopefully I can see you again soon.